There's a moment every skier hits where the math stops mathing. You're staring at a lift ticket that costs more than your flight, your hotel, and your dignity combined, and that's before lunch. So here's the uncomfortable truth nobody at a US resort gift shop wants you to hear. In huge parts of the world, skiing is still treated like a sport, not a luxury lifestyle brand. In some cases, it's literally cheaper to leave the country, ski better terrain, eat better food, and still come home with money left. Starting at number 12, here are the places that quietly expose how wild US ski pricing has become. Number 12, Dizen Ski Resort. Dizen feels like a rumor someone started online and forgot to fact-check. A serious alpine ski resort, high in the Alborz Mountains, just outside Tehran, with chairlifts cutting across stark white ridgelines that look photoshopped. The air is thin, the scenery is dramatic, and the vibe is unexpectedly calm. You arrive expecting chaos. Instead, you get quiet slopes, wide runs, and skiers actually skiing. Here's the part that breaks American brains. A full-day lift ticket can cost around 12 euros, sometimes less. Rentals hover near 35 euros. That means you can ski all day for roughly what a US resort charges to store your boots. The mountain itself rises above 3,600 meters, so snow quality stays solid, and the vertical drop is legit. This isn't a bunny hill pretending to be exotic, it's real terrain. Now, reality check. Logistics are the real price. Visas, planning, and travel friction push Dizen into adventurous territory. But once you're there, the mountain treats skiing like a public good, not a financial endurance test. It's the definition of cheap on paper, complex in practice. Still, knowing this exists is enough to make US window ticket prices feel slightly unhinged. Number 11, Goderdzi Ski Resort. Goderdzi doesn't try to impress you. It just sits there quietly in Georgia's Ajara region, covered in snow, minding its business, charging about 10 euros for a lift ticket like it's still 1998. The mountains are soft-edged and endless, with thick snowfall that blankets everything into a clean, quiet white. No crowds, no hype, just runs that feel untouched and slightly rebellious for being this affordable. The roads in are winding and cinematic, the kind where you keep pulling over because the view feels illegal to ignore. Once you arrive, it's peaceful in a way that makes expensive resorts feel noisy by comparison. Skiing here feels intimate. Locals move at their own pace. Nobody's flexing gear. Nobody's rushing to maximize value per hour because value already showed up. Infrastructure is modest, and that's the deal. You're not paying for luxury villages or designer après. You're paying almost nothing to ski real mountains. For travelers who value snow, silence, and absurdly low prices over champagne bars, Goderdzi is a quiet mic drop. It's not pretending to be Switzerland, it's being honest. And honestly, that's refreshing. Number 10, Shimbolak Ski Resort. Shimbolak is the moment you realize Central Asia never got the email about overpricing skiing. Tucked above Almaty, it rises fast from the city into massive alpine terrain, with gondolas climbing through pine forests into wide-open bowls. The contrast is wild. 1 minute, you're near a major city. Next, you're surrounded by peaks that feel aggressively serious. Day passes often land around $35 to $40. Let that settle. For a resort that hosts international competitions and offers long vertical drops, that price feels like a clerical error. The lifts are modern, the views stretch forever, and the runs range from friendly cruisers to slopes that politely remind you to stay focused. Food on the mountain can get pricey by local standards, which means it's still cheaper than a US lodge coffee. The atmosphere is relaxed. People ski, stop, laugh, eat, then ski again. No rush, no urgency to get your money's worth. Shimbolak doesn't feel like a bargain resort. It feels like skiing before it became a luxury product with branding meetings. If this is already making US lift prices feel unhinged, tap like so the algorithm doesn't bury this. Subscribe if you enjoy travel math that hurts in a productive way. We're only getting started, and the next spots somehow get even more insulting to your domestic ski budget. Number 9. Glenshee Ski Center. Glenshee looks like someone gently folded snow over rolling green hills and forgot to add the ego. It's the largest ski area in Scotland, stretched across wide, open terrain that feels honest. No fake villages, no luxury mythology, just lifts, wind, and a sky that changes moods every 10 minutes. Lift tickets often start around $50. That's it, for an entire day of skiing. The runs aren't towering alpine monsters, but they're long, playful, and perfect for actually enjoying yourself instead of surviving crowds. The weather keeps things interesting. Sometimes you get sunshine, sometimes sideways snow, sometimes both in the same run. Glenshee's charm is its lack of pretense. It doesn't promise perfection, it promises access. Families ski here, beginners learn here. Adaptive skiers are genuinely supported. When conditions line up, it's magical. When they don't, it's still fun, because you didn't mortgage your happiness to be there. It's skiing stripped of drama, and somehow, that makes it feel richer than resorts charging triple digits just to let you stand in line. Number 8. Uludağ. Uludağ feels like someone mashed a European ski resort and a Mediterranean vacation together and forgot to raise the prices. You're skiing above Bursa, a city that smells like grilled meat and history, with Marmara Sea energy lurking not too far away. The mountain itself is thick with pine forests, soft powder, and long cruising runs that make you relax your shoulders without realizing it. It's not intimidating, it's welcoming, almost suspiciously so. Now for the part that breaks the mental calculator. Day passes often sit around $30 to $45, depending on season and access. Rentals are reasonable. Food on the mountain is actual food, not a $28 bowl of soup pretending to be artisanal. You ski, you eat, you ski again, and your wallet doesn't start sweating halfway through lunch. Uludağ's real trick is balance. You get modern lifts, solid grooming, and a lively après scene, but it never feels like a corporate ski experiment. Istanbul is just a few hours away, which means this can be a ski trip that quietly turns into a culture trip without blowing up the budget. It's the kind of place where you realize skiing doesn't need to hurt financially to feel premium. It just needs mountains, snow, and people who didn't decide exclusivity was the product. Number 7. Ilis Ski Resort. Ilis feels like skiing inside a snow globe that someone forgot to shake too hard. Everything is calm. The trees are heavy with snow. The sky feels enormous. And the silence is loud in that unsettling, peaceful way that makes expensive resorts feel like shopping malls in comparison. This is Lapland skiing, where nature doesn't perform for you, it just exists. Lift tickets often start around 50 to 55 euros, and rentals plus lessons don't immediately demand a credit check. That alone feels rebellious. But Ilis goes further. You're skiing under pink winter skies, sometimes with northern lights showing off later that night, like the universe decided to throw in a bonus feature. The slopes are long and forgiving, perfect for people who enjoy flow more than chaos. Cross-country trails stretch endlessly, and there's a gondola ride that costs about 16 euros just for the view, which somehow feels generous instead of opportunistic. Après here isn't loud. It's saunas, hot drinks, and quiet conversations that don't involve comparing gear specs. Ilis doesn't try to wow you with excess. It wins by making skiing feel pure again. You finish the day tired, calm, and slightly confused why anyone pays triple digits just to feel stressed on a mountain. Number 6. Vogel Ski Resort. Vogel starts with a cable car ride that feels like it should cost money just to experience, and then politely charges you almost nothing. You rise above Lake Behinge, water frozen and glowing below, mountains closing in around you, and for a second, you forget you're heading to a ski resort. It feels more like entering a painting. Day passes often land around 40 to 45 euros, which already feels absurd given the scenery. The resort sits inside Triglav National Park, so everything looks untouched and dramatic, like the Alps before they learned how to monetize themselves. The runs are wide, scenic, and relaxed. Snowboarding feels especially good here, and families don't look stressed, which is always a good sign. Vogel's magic is how quietly confident it is. No giant villages, no luxury posturing, just lifts, snow, and views that make you stop mid-run to stare like a tourist who forgot their skiing. You can add cross-country skiing, beginner zones, and gentle terrain without ever feeling crowded. By the end of the day, you realize Vogel isn't cheap because it's lacking. It's cheap because Slovenia never decided skiing had to become a personality test for wealth. And that feels correct. Number 5. Miyoko Suginohara. Miyoko Suginohara is where American skiers start laughing, then stop laughing, then quietly Google flights. This resort sits in Japan's legendary snow country and casually receives over 40 feet of snowfall a year. Not good season snow, biblical snow, the kind that makes trees look embarrassed and skis feel grateful. Day passes often come in around 7,000 yen, roughly $40 to $45, depending on exchange rates. Let that sink in. You're skiing some of the deepest, fluffiest powder on Earth for less than a US resort charges to look at the mountain. The runs are long, the lift lines are shockingly polite, and the atmosphere is calm in a way that feels almost suspicious. Beginners aren't bullied here. Advanced skiers get their fix. Everyone gets space, and when you're done, you're eating real Japanese food that costs less than fries back home. No loud apres chaos, just tired legs, warm meals, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing you hacked the system. Miyoko doesn't flex. It doesn't need to. The snow does all the talking, and your bank account quietly thanks you the entire time. Number 4. Polyana Brashov. Polyana Brashov feels like Europe gently reminding you that skiing used to be normal. Not elite, not exclusive, just normal. The resort sits above a medieval city that still looks like it belongs on a history textbook cover, with church spires, cobblestone streets, and the Carpathian Mountains looming behind it like quiet security guards. You ski all day, then descend into a town where dinner doesn't require a reservation 3 weeks in advance or a second job. Day passes here often land around 240 Romanian lei, roughly $50 to $55, depending on season. That's not a discount. That's the price. Groomed runs, modern lifts, night skiing, and actual mountain infrastructure included. Rentals and lessons don't jump scare your wallet either. The terrain isn't trying to scare professionals into submission, but it's varied enough to keep intermediate skiers happy for days. What makes Polyana Brashov sneak into the top tier is the full-day experience. You ski without stress, you eat well without budgeting spreadsheets. You walk through Brashov afterward and realize the town itself is doing half the emotional heavy lifting. It's charming without being precious, affordable without feeling cheap. By the end, you're not exhausted from crowds or pricing games. You're just satisfied, which is rare. Number 3, Harakov. Harakov is what happens when a ski town refuses to take itself too seriously and accidentally wins. Tucked near the Polish border, surrounded by forests that look like they were hand-painted, it feels cozy the moment you arrive. The mountain rises gently, the village hums quietly, and nobody's pretending this is a billionaire playground. That alone lowers your blood pressure. Lift tickets can start around 660 to 1,100 Czech koruna, roughly $30 to $45, depending on access and season. For that, you get alpine skiing, cross-country trails, night skiing, and a cable car ride that costs less than a bottled water at most US resorts. The runs are friendly, scenic, and forgiving, which means you actually enjoy the day instead of bracing for impact. And then there's the bonus content, a frozen waterfall nearby that people casually walk to after skiing, like it's no big deal. Cozy pubs where beer is cheaper than soda. Locals who treat skiing like a weekend habit, not a personality trait. Harakov doesn't scream value. It whispers it over and over until you realize how ridiculous expensive resorts sound by comparison. Number 2, Alpbach. Alpbach looks like someone engineered a ski village specifically to embarrass overpriced resorts. Wooden chalets, snow-covered balconies, mountains stacked neatly behind the town like a screensaver you'd never believe was real. This is classic Austria, the version travel ads wish they could afford to film longer. Skiing here connects you to the Ski Jewel Altbachtal Wildschenau, with over 70 miles of terrain and day passes often starting around 40 to 45 euros. Add rentals and you're still under what many US resorts charge just to exist near the gondola. The lifts are efficient, the grooming is immaculate, and the slopes stretch long enough to feel satisfying instead of rushed. What really sells Altbach is how composed it feels. Everything works. Trains, buses, lift connections, no traffic meltdowns, no frantic energy. You ski hard, stop for a warm meal that doesn't cost a kidney, then ski some more. Après is social, not feral. The town doesn't flex wealth, it flexes competence, and somehow that feels more luxurious than any VIP lounge ever could. Number 1, Bansko. Bansko takes the crown because it commits the ultimate crime against expensive skiing. It delivers everything. Real town, real mountains, real nightlife, and prices that feel like a clerical error. Nestled at the foot of the Pirin Mountains, Bansko looks charming in a no-effort way. Stone streets, snow-dusted rooftops, peaks that rise sharply and don't ask permission. Day passes often start around 110 BGN, roughly $55 to $60. Lessons can be cheaper than a US breakfast. Rentals don't cause emotional damage. The ski area itself is massive, modern, and well-maintained, with terrain that satisfies beginners and keeps advanced skiers entertained without pretending it's extreme for marketing reasons. And then there's the town. Bars, cafes, actual energy at night. You ski all day, eat well, laugh, wander, and do it again without feeling like you're being monetized at every step. Bansko doesn't feel like a resort built to extract value. It feels like a town that happens to love skiing. That's why it wins. Not because it's the flashiest, but because it reminds you of what skiing was supposed to feel like before it became a luxury endurance test. If skiing is supposed to feel freeing, not financially traumatic, these places expose the lie. Same snow, same adrenaline, fewer regrets. You can keep paying luxury prices for familiar mountains, or you can follow the passport and let your money finally relax. The slopes didn't change. The mindset did.